The government policies actually work for the people every year. Policies are drafted, budgets are passed, reforms are announced. On paper, they promise progress, better electricity, improved security, economic stability, and a higher standard of living. But for many Nigerians, the reality tells a different story. Power remains inconsistent despite repeated reforms in the power sector. Insecurity continues to affect livelihoods across different regions. The cost of living has surged, placing increasing pressure on households. And according to recent data, a significant proportion of Nigerians still live in multidimensional poverty, and millions lack access to reliable electricity. At the same time, the government's spending and policy announcements continue to grow. So the question is not about policies, if they exist, but why do these policies often fail to translate into real impact? Is it about the design? Is it weak implementation? Or is it governance itself not being sufficient? Well, to help us unpack these and many more, my guest this morning is the Director of Strategic Communications, Osehilase, Aigbe Uduebor. Great to have you join us this morning. How's your week going so far?
It's been great. Just a little bit here and there, you know.
Any highlights?
I think the highlight of my week was about yesterday, where I had to submit a water policy to the Speaker House of Reps. So it's kind of like a new water policy that would, how will I put it? Most people don't know, but the world wars we see today is about crude oil and all that. But very soon, at the last hunger, it was projected that one of the next wars we will see will be about something that is seems similar in abundance, which is water, but it's scarcer than crude oil right now. Nobody's taking note of it. Okay. So I sat down and in being proactive, I was like, okay, so how do we get to protect our water reserves before we get to that point where we don't have water for the next 3, 4, 5 generations? So I decided to come up with a water bill that will make sure that water is conserved, water is preserved, and water is equally distributed amongst all Nigerians at affordable rates. So I just finished working on that and I put it forward, and I hope.
So that's something we'll be following up on to see how it progresses.
Beautiful, I would love that.
Okay. Well, you are the Director, Strategic Communication at the Take Action organization, and you'll be giving us a bit of insight into policies and why things are the way they are right now. Help us better understand, see things from a different perspective, and hopefully we're able to get a grasp of it. But let's get right into understanding something real quick. From your experience in policy and legislative advisory, how are policies ideally supposed to impact Nigerians?
Okay, first of all, policies are passed or made by the lawmakers most of them have a retinue of aides that are aptly qualified, gone through trainings and everything. So they are basically passed on the floor of the House, go through first reading, second reading, gets a public hearing, then maybe finally gets an assent, and it's passed into law. Then from there on, it's now the job of the responsible MDAs, where these policies are going to be domesticated in to implement these laws and turn them to tangible changes within the populace. So there's always a big disconnect. The laws I always tell people we have fantastic laws, we have fantastic policies, acts have been amended and all that, but it's in the area of implementation that there's a very big lacuna, either in the technical know-how from these agencies, the MDAs, or in the acceptance from the populace of these policies. Then also there's this gap in information, or will I say disinformation, that most of these policies are just thrown at the public without proper sensitization to give them a buy-in into these things. How is it going to benefit them? What is the long, short, and medium-term goals that these policies seek to attain? So when there's that disconnect, there's this disenfranchisement, and people just feel, oh no, they've come after us again. They're trying to do this. And along the line, you see that the policy gets lost, and the government kind of like wants to start retracting its steps for something that ordinarily was meant to benefit the populace. So With all these here and there, it now becomes a big what if and what not.
So, quick question for you. Two things, actually. And it borders on those who are expected to implement these policies and the people who should generally benefit from these policies when they're implemented the right way. How much of policy making is informed by data and the needs of citizens? And is all of these taken into consideration when these policies are being debated on?
Oh yes, oh yes. Majority of the policies we see right now are informed by data, from the Electricity Act to the Petroleum Industry Bill to the current framework they're trying to design from the Security Act, the current security framework for state policing. So they are all informed by data. And like I said, there's a first reading, there's the second reading, then there's a public hearing where CSO, civil society organizations, NGOs, non-governmental organizations, and the public are invited to come debate various sections of this bill, of this act, of these policies. So it's first put thrown to the public. It's after it scales through the public hearing, when the public gives their input, they go back to on the committee level. They try to amend the different areas, taking input, and they also have, how would I say, experts sit on such committees to assist those committees in drafting those policies. So it's based on, it's a whole lot that goes into that. Everybody's carried along. So it's based on data, and it's also based on public input before these policies are formulated.
Because it makes me wonder, if all of these persons are represented, in the decisions being taken, and when these policies are passed and meant to be implemented, some persons act shocked, like they had no idea. So it means that there was poor awareness, or those who represented the people did not do due diligence in putting the actual input or decisions of these people, into consideration while, sharing their own thoughts as well. But I'd like us to get into something that's actually affecting Nigerians, and it's the power sector, the power access gap, millions without access to reliable power. I have you share that in a bit, but you can join the conversation. Whatever questions you'd like to ask, the WhatsApp platform is open for you to do that. And during the course of the show, we'll open the phone lines as well and have you call in. You'll have limited time, 45 seconds is what you have in case you decide to call in. But the WhatsApp number is 080-99930137. And we are looking at governance and the people on the In Focus segment this morning. Government policies are designed to improve lives, but how often do they really, truly reach the average Nigerian? From electricity and fuel pricing to insecurity and the rising living costs. There remains a persistent gap between policy formulation and everyday reality. And this edition is going to examine how governance decisions translate or fail to translate into tangible outcomes for Nigerians. We have our guest right here who's going to help us get a better understanding of this, and maybe, just maybe, we'll be able to, in moving forward, do better as a people and make things work for every single Nigerian who is represented and should be able to benefit from our Commonwealth. To all the stay tuned.
With all the stories that make the news,
the headlines,
the caption, the breaking news,
details of the stories.
Let's talk about these and more
On 95.1 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
Action Organization. So I was asking something about the power sector before we had to take that quick breather. And Nigeria has implemented multiple power sector reforms. Why does electricity remain unstable?
As first of all, as a Nigerian that feels the bite too, as a Nigerian that feels the bite too, I would say that change, actual real change, tangible change from these policies will take time, because the rot in the electricity system it dates back as far as, let me say, we've not done a major upgrade or upscale in the electricity sector in decades. So, but it's good to know that this president, one of the first bills he signed less than 40 days into his tenure in office was the Electricity Act that was signed into law. Now, what does that do? Most people don't know this. What does that do? That decentralizes power and puts it in the hands of everybody, both private sector partners, the public, and also state governments. So we've moved from that part of that era of ADC, BDCs, the distribution companies, right? It has opened up the sector to bring in more players. So that alone, the questions we should be asking now, that why are we not feeling this light impact at the grassroots level? Now, last week, the president also just approved the sum of 3.3 trillion to be paid to the generation companies.
But that's not the first time we're seeing that happen. In previous years, we've seen the same or similar, approvals, but not much difference made.
We've seen, but we've not. It hasn't been implemented. That's why, if they've been paying these debts over the while, we wouldn't have gotten to that amount. So these are debts that were just like promissory notes. Oh, we'll do it, go back and start generating. Oh, we'll clear it. Oh, we acknowledge it. We've seen it. Go back and continue generating. We'll pay it. They were just like promissory notes. This is the first actionable step that has been taken to put a framework for clearing those debts, and also paying commencement of payments to the GenCos. Now, that money is not just to clear debts. It's to revitalize the sector by putting upgrading the equipments that are there, expansion of these generating equipments to modern equipments, which will see a very good surge and increase in power generation and distribution to the common Nigerian. So I'm very certain, as being someone that can see from the back end, I'm very certain that over the next 4 months, there will be an increase in power.
So can we hold it to your word that in 4 months, things will be different from what they look like right now?
You can take that to the bank. You can take that. I'm very sure. I'm very sure, and I know that even before this last payment was made, Siemens have been working behind the scenes to expand our generation power from the current 5,000 megawatts to 25,000 megawatts in a space of between now and 2030. So they are upscaling down. To suffice to know that last year, July, we had our highest ever generation of electricity from the 5,000 megawatts to I think about 5,015, 5,018, the highest ever. Small, but baby steps in the right direction. And now there's also the metering programs that are ongoing. As we speak now, there's a rollout of metering to underserved communities, because most of this power outage we see, most of these irregular power supply we see, it's not on the part of the generation, it's the distribution. There's something they call leakage in electricity from things like bypassing of meters, from things of poor infrastructure, transformers and all that. So they are rolling out a new plan to take care of all that. I'm very sure that there's also the solarization of Nigeria. Most people just say, oh, the president that promised us power has taken us to rock off the national grid.
Doesn't that send the wrong message? Doesn't that send the wrong message to Nigerian
what
people?
People don't understand is part of the plan, the presidential power implementation plan says that 10% of the total generated electricity in the national grid must come from green energy. So he has taken the villa, put it on green energy. Well, people failed when they're sending that narrative. They failed to still include that he's planning on taking all national assets, tertiary hospitals and institutions off the national grid too, and putting them on green energy. He just started with the villa phase. It's like almost like you must lead. You must show example through your leadership.
But wouldn't this be easier to accept by the people if there is a bit of information being spread, awareness? The reason for doing this is because XYZ needs to be achieved. Wouldn't that make the news easily acceptable or the decision more welcoming?
I totally agree with you. That's why I started off with there's a lot of dis and misinformation, and it's making the social contract between our leaders and the people almost null and void. Is invalidating it when information that needs to go out there. So I think I would say the National Orientation Agency, the Nigeria Communications Commission, and all associated affiliated bodies, they are doing a shabby job in putting information out there, because it's almost like business as usual. Oh, we are working behind the scenes. You just wait. You see the results. But the people need at every step. They are partners in development. They are partners in progress. Every step of the way, they need to be carried along. In the interim, this is what we are doing. This is the reason why this is not happening now. This is the time frame for this to happen. I just sat here now and I said, I know within the next 4-5 months, light situation, the power situation in Nigeria will be greatly improved.
And not forget that the president, made a promise during the campaign season, before he got into office, that if power is not constant in the first 4 years, Nigerians should not consider him for a second term.
But I think we're still within that time frame.
Oh, yeah, yes. But you said 4 months, so we'll see how that plays out in the interim. But then the figure you gave, 5,801.84 megawatts, that's the peak that was achieved in March 2025.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's get to security real quick and get to understand what's playing out, because that's also the primary responsibility of the government.
Yes.
Why does insecurity persist despite increased spending?
Okay, I always tell people security is everyone's business. It's not the business for the government alone. Now, there are some things that need to be basic things that needs to be put in place. Security is local.
Okay.
Security is local. It's not a federal government affair, because the IGP of police might not know what's happening in my village. I'm from Esan West. He might not know how to better police. Security is local, number one. The security architecture of every state differs. So security solutions should be tailored to suit the needs of the people in a particular region, which people tend to just gloss over. Now, you see something, say something, take action. For security, there are some, the state police that the president has been clamoring for since he got into office, which the last IGP was opposed to. The people will say it will put more powers and it will be abused by the state actors.
But that's a legitimate fear.
It's a legitimate fear, yes, but we should also look at if the pros of a policy outweighs the cons. I think we should lean towards it, because that's pushing Nigeria quickly into true federalism, where power is diverged from the center, is decentralized from the center, and spread across states. So if we are saying we have probably 80,000 or thereabout policemen to police over 300 million Nigerians.
About 230 million Nigerians.
Yeah, 230.
I mean, it would be great to have the census conducted so we can know the exact number, because this constant
250,
uncertainty. Yes,
300, yeah.
we need to know the exact number of Nigerians. But go ahead with your thoughts.
I think the state policing, that they are working on the framework now, which I think the current IGP is about to submit, and the different people will have their own inputs in it before it becomes a full document to be implemented. It's one of the major ways to tackle insecurity in the states. Now, that's one end of it. There's the second end of it, where states are all these local vigilantes and all that. Then, if we get to the root causes of insecurity, which I always insist is unemployment at the local level, right? Underdevelopment at the local level. We'll ask ourselves some questions before we start throwing stones at the federal structure. What are the state governors doing with the security votes? Because we're all aware that much more money realized from the fuel subsidy has been pushed to state level, right? We are all aware that the president has passed into act, by virtue of the Supreme Court pronouncement, local government autonomy. And if we agree that security is local and monies are being paid directly to local government accounts, why are we still seeing insecurity at the local level? This insecurity we're talking about is not happening in Wuse. It's not happening in VI or Lekki. We're talking of all the insecurity clashes, the kidnappings. They're happening in remote areas.
No, but Abuja is also said to be insecure in some parts. And if one district of the FCT or one municipal area council of the FCT is affected, it's as though the whole city is affected by whatever happens in one part.
I totally agree with you. But if we're going to categorize insecurity from the way it is, Abuja is a metropolitan city. We understand there will be things like car robberies, carjackers, one chances and all that. It happens in all urban cities all over the world. The police in Abuja is adequately enough. They understand they are equipped enough to handle that year and
I think really enough, because I mean, according to the police and data available, there's about 370,000 policemen to 230 million, over 230 million Nigerians. So that's not adequate. I know that there have been recent push for the numbers to be increased, and like you referenced, with the state police, that could also see an upsurge in the number of policemen to Nigerians, and maybe be able to improve the security situation of certain parts of the country. But land on that thought.
Now, when I picked up Abuja, while I agree with you that the policemen are not enough, our ratio Nigerians that need security, but in Abuja there's an overprotection of the city center, in terms of, by virtue of the dignitaries that live in Abuja, the importance of Abuja to the federal government as the seat of power. So if we're having, like you said, like maybe that number you gave for policemen, that with number of policemen,
370,000 over that.
Now, let me just hypothetically speaking, because I don't have data, but I can say that maybe 20% of those policemen are domiciled in Abuja.
That's what there was the recall of policemen from VIPs, and that was shifted to the NSCDC, I believe. But many have said maybe these people need to take care of their own security by getting private security and not have to put that burden on the government.
I totally align myself with that point of view, and it was something that if you know, it was that initiative was initiated by Mr. President. And we all watched it on TV when when we were about to go on holidays, where the Senate President tried to make a passionate appeal to the president that they'll be going home for holidays, and the president didn't rescind that order. So it's the intent and the implementation we should look at. The intent of the president, the implementation of the bills and the motions and the policies of Mr. President, and we'll look at other actors. The beauty about democracy is that it's not a one man runs the show. So Mr. President might have good intents, but he knows that he needs to walk around the democratic institutions for it to get to final implementation. That's where you see when he sends maybe a bill or a policy to the National Assembly. By the time they finish acting on it, what he initially planned to do, it gets amended, gets hit, battered, knackered, and everything, and gets sent back to him. And it's almost like, oh, well, it could have been better, but everybody, I mean, it's the interest of 774 local governments all having representatives. So if that's what the people want, it has to just go with the flow.
Let's get some thoughts in real quick. The phone lines are now open for you to call. 45 seconds. That's the time you have. So please stick to that. 0700 951 0000 and 08095974869. I'll look at the WhatsApp messages real quick, and you can respond to whichever has your attention. Tell the guest that I, as an honorary Nigerian, can guarantee improvement in power supply in the next 4 months because it's the rainy season. What will make Nigerians trust more is when we can be guaranteed that there will be improved power supply in the dry season. This will tell Nigerians that, yes, truly power has improved, is what the Queen shares as her thought. When government was introducing ban payments, a speaker was brought and explained, I quote him, hence, Nigerians start paying on bans will enjoy constant power supply. Today, where are we? I want your guests to convince us of how we will get power supply constantly in the next 4 months. Is the government going to do magic or perform magic? Is what Chima in the post says. Let's get to this call real quick. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Welcome, sir. You good?
I'm good.
Let's hear your thoughts. 45 seconds. Your name, go ahead.
My name is Emeki Hemama. I'm calling from Bori. The analysis your guest is giving there is telling us somebody who is not living in Nigeria. Since I live in Abuja, I live in Bori. Every postulation is making there is for the future. What we are saying is for today. Life is for today. You are telling me that electricity will improve in 2030, and I want to tell you.
He said 4 months, not 4 years.
4 months, okay, 4 months. And we are saying that for the past 3 months in Buhari here, we've not been having electricity, and you are telling us that in the next 4 months that electricity will improve. What magic will you do? When you've already accepted the fact that the things that are supposed to be done have not been done well.
All right.
This in these 4 months you are telling us is going to be done well. I beg, stop disturbing us in this radio program. We are tired.
All right. Thank you, sir, for sharing your thoughts. And Sabi Boy in Kuchi Bena says we have to join hands and remove. Okay. This is for a different conversation we are having earlier. Okay, no. You say that the guest is emphasizing on insecurity in the rural areas. Are those folks down there not Nigerians? Is a question that Kuchibena is asking. Let's get to you next. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Welcome.
My name is Elder Sam from Kaladimawa.
45 seconds, sir. Go ahead.
Please, can I have the name of our guest there? What is his name? Hello?
His name is Aigbe.
Okay. Can he give us his phone number so that after 4 months or 5 months we can get back to him? All
right, sir. He can hear you, so we'll see about that.
I think it's scaring me because this is not the first time that government will send representatives to come and visit us. They have been doing this since from many years ago. And he has come today to tell us all this because they want to win election next 2027. I assure him that we will put them out.
All right, sir.
Us will not, the next 5 months we will look for him and ask him of this question to explain himself. We don't accept anything that he's saying now.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. So the trust level from the feedback you've gotten so far is nothing to write home about, is minimal. Yeah. You say something and Nigerians can listen, we've had this before, one time too many. We can't seem to believe what is being said. How would you react to that?
I would say that it's like I said, the mistrust between the leadership and the populace is real, and but I can authoritatively say that this is the first time that we are having a president that is taking action, that understands the job that needs to get done, and is not being distracted, and is taking actionable steps to ensuring that permanent solutions are gotten to all this. Now, in areas of in the power sector, like I said, there is a lot that is going on behind the scene. Until this recent generation companies trying to shut down their equipment, saying there's a lot of debts being owed and everything, we were enjoying I won't say steady, but until the last 3 months, where the light was fairly okay, right? It was fairly okay. It was better than what we had.
I mean, we heard from Ihemama, who said in the last 3 months he hasn't had steady power supply where he lives in the FCT, and that's the Buhari Area Council.
Yeah, I would say there are some areas that, how will I put it, that still need infrastructural upgrade, right? An area that has never had transformers before. We don't expect them to start, even if there has been constant lights for the last, maybe last 3-4 months, there has been good lights, except till recently. We don't expect them to benefit from that, right? So it's a case of those areas that have not been captured or that have not been connected to infrastructural, power infrastructure, like meterings and transformers, good transformers, because some transformers are experiencing serious overload because of, well, I say urbanization, when more people move to an area. You were staying there before, you guys were just 10 on the streets, but now they've built houses, they've demolished some areas, estates are springing up everywhere. There's an overload on the transformers in those areas.
Now, let's get something real quick as I start to wind down on this conversation. What policy would you say has worked? One policy that you think has worked just fine in Nigeria? One policy, and one that you think should be looked into because it has failed?
Okay, a policy that I would say has worked in Nigeria is the education policy.
Okay. So is that a NEL fund?
Yeah, that's the NEL fund. That most people don't know that there is now I think is it 500 billion. I'll get my statistics right. That's been earmarked for tertiary institutions.
Okay.
So for upgrading, for research grants, for upgrading of their laboratories and all that. Then there's the NEL fund. Then there's also the retraining of teachers. That's one policy. Then there's also I don't know what.
Well, I asked you for one, and you mentioned education.
Yes.
Let's get into one that has failed and what you think should be done as an urgent reform for Nigeria. So one that has failed, and then an urgent reform that needs to be looked into in good time, in 60 seconds.
One that has failed, I would say, would I say any policy has actually failed, or I would say underperformed?
Okay, so underperform should be the word. So let's get to that.
One that is underperformed, I would still say, is the power sector. Now, with the amount of funds running into trillions of naira that has been pumped into that sector over the last 3 years in this administration, we expect to have been somewhere better than where we are. That doesn't mean we're not still on the right course, but I just feel because that sector drives every other sector in Nigeria, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the industrialization of Nigeria, in terms of almost every other sector is dependent on the power sector. We need that sector to come to life as soon as possible. So the rejigging we just saw for the 3.3 trillion, clearing of the debts and everything, I think that was long overdue. And improving, like what that man just said concerning this area has been coming kind of like off grid for the last 3 months. We need to start seeing tangible changes, new and modern transformers should be distributed. We need to start seeing metering of all consumers. We need to start seeing an upgrade in critical infrastructure. More dams should be built. We need to start seeing alternative sources of energy, solar farms and all that. Should be state governments should start taking action.
Okay. And in 30 seconds, the most urgent reform Nigeria needs today.
Security.
Okay. It's a good place to leave that conversation right here, because we can go on and on talking about, what exactly, should do better in terms of policy formulations and how it can affect the people better. But at the end of the day, governance is not measured by policies reading, but by lives improved. And the real test of leadership is not in announcement or intentions, but in the outcomes that people can see, can feel, and experience in their daily lives. But we'll follow up with this, and we're going to hold Ose to his words. It's 4 months. Some people are saying it's the rainy season. Power improves in the rainy season. But we'll see after the rainy season, would it be the same? Would it, be better or worse off? We'll definitely have those conversations and, talk about it even more. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Osehilase Aigbe Uduebor, he's the Director of Strategic Communications at the Take Action Organization, and he's also a senior legislative aide to the Speaker of the House of Reps, where he heads the Policy Research, Strategy and Advisory Subunit within the Program Control Unit. Thank you so much for your time this morning, and I hope that you have a good Thursday, and we hope to have you back here again soon enough to talk some more about policies and how they affect the people.
It's great to be on the show.
All right, thank you. And that's all we have on the show this morning. At 9 o'clock, it'll be time for business news, and afterwards, Sports Drive, 9:30. What's happening Abuja will be live until noon, so do well to stay tuned. At 12, the sunny side, till 3 p.m. Some hard facts for you till 7, and football frenzy till 9 tonight with Dion afterwards. See you tomorrow bright and early. Good morning.
More conversation, more talk, more right after this. This